here is done with a very pale wash, which is a sort of a grey, a very neutral grey. It's a colour I picked out of the garlics, and I drew the shapes directly with that. Now, the next one, having done the wash, a few little wash lines to describe the form of the garlic, I then, and the limes, I then put in a little tiny bit of the background to help me. What I also said to the group was, if you've got a viewfinder, Carol, I don't know if you have, I would use a viewfinder and select a part of your subject. I mean, I don't know if you've got as many limes and garlics as I have, but I've got 3 limes and 3 garlics, and they're on a plate.
Yes.
I think it is valuable, rather than sort of launching into paintings every week, is that we do studies, you know, now and then, because it really helps to inform a more sustained piece of work. And so I just thought, well, this week we will just do some studies, you know, different groupings of the subject, maybe different views, maybe open up one of the garlics, whatever you want to do, so that you have on your board 4 entirely different studies of this subject. And this is all I call this, a study. I only suggested that people did 4 because maybe they'd like to work on it during the week and carry on, but I'm not expecting you to do more than probably 1 in this session. But it's I think it is interesting to do it either as a wash line or as a pencil line, 4 different studies, just because then it means you've looked at the different possibilities of 4 composition and found the one that, you know, works, you feel the best. I mean, I'm looking at this, I'm doing at the moment, and it's tricky because I don't think the 3 limes on their own are particularly interesting, but I love the way the garlic sits with all its layers, and, you know, the fact you can see a little bit inside it. I think that's what makes it interesting, you know, or that you pull some of it away so that you've got 3/4 of the whole bulb and 1 loose clove or something like that. A good idea to have 2 on the go, just because when I was doing this and I work wet into wet, you do have to wait for the, you know, the initial wash to dry a bit before you start, you know, dropping in the darker one.
Are your darker bits only Prussian blue?
Here, this is a mixture of, no, they're just a dark green. I may have just done a little bit of blue with a tiny touch of yellow in the very darks, but it's you know, where the one shape overlaps another or casts a shadow back on the other. The other thing you can do, of course, is put a tiny bit of red into it, so you use the complement in that shadow area. But in a way, I'm not sure that working on 2 isn't a better idea, because otherwise you really do have to sit and watch until the thing dries a bit, or use your hairdryer. I'm just going to interrupt a bit, but I've lined this little study in, and I just wanted to say that what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put some of the plate in, because that's the negative space, and it will help me to see whether or not I've actually drawn these shapes correctly. So at the moment it's just in outline, and I need to check the spaces. I mean, when I'm actually drawing this, was consciously looking at the spaces and saying to myself, have I made that space between the edge of that bit of papery leaf from the clove too far away from the lime, or is that space correct? What is the space between the front of the lime and the edge of the plate? And similarly, what is the space between the edge of the clove and the edge of the plate? All these things, I'm actually, is what's going through my head as I'm drawing. I don't know if this is helpful, but it's not just a case of going from one shape to the other shape to the other shape. I think the spaces are equally important, and that one judges those accurately, in terms of when you're drawing the subject up. I don't know if you can see, but on my plate shiny, and there's it's showing reflections in the plate. So I've lifted out bits of it with water, and yeah, I'm just sort of indicating that there's reflection under there. So all I'm saying is don't just fill things in. Just be aware of what's going on, and the things you don't anticipate seeing that occur are always I think are quite magical. They're what I find interesting, the things you don't expect.